You're listening to Scheduling Sin with me, Snowmill.
Push in and everything, and she's pushing away from you because she's on this damn swing.
Then you decided to post it on the Discord. Like, it wasn't like just a group chat of the people that we were meeting. You posted it in the general, oh, sorry, we're running late, morning sex.
Well, hello, Mrs. Snow.
Hi, Mr. Snow.
How are you?
I am good. I am amazing. I am coming down from our amazing trip. And I guess I should say, first off, happy belated birthday, Mr. Snow.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your amazing birthday weekend.
Yeah, so this trip, as those of you who follow us know, and for those of us who are new, welcome. This trip was to celebrate my 40th birthday.
Yes.
And you only turn 40 once, and this was one hell of a way to do it.
Yeah, we had a great time.
So a little quick backstory on this trip. So we came up with the idea of doing this trip almost as a joke.
As a joke, 100%. I think one of the
summer,
first times we were talking to Mr. and Mrs. N.
Yeah.
They were talking about the club that, they're Liberty Elite and the amazingness of that. And we kind of joked about, well, Mr. Snow's got a big birthday coming up. We should make a trip. And it was just a joke. And everyone was like, yeah, you should do it. And then it just kind of happened.
Yeah, it sort of took off from there.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I really don't think I totally believed it was going to happen.
Oh, no.
Until about a month before we went.
Well, even then, I think we were just waiting for something. Like the week before we left, one of our kids got real sick. And I was like, there it is.
Oh, my gosh. We had everything leading up to this. We had Mrs. Snow had kidney stones.
Yeah.
We had sick kids. We had COVID. We had the holidays.
Oh,
we had
right.
Everything.
And then just work drama.
In the weeks leading up to all this. But the stars aligned. It all worked out.
It did.
And we went. So this is the story. So we've been teasing all of this on Twitter and on the Discord for so long. This trip is over. It's time now to tell what happened.
So buckle up. It's going to be a long one.
Buckle up.
Mr. Snow had to go get a notepad. Like, he literally just sat here for the last 40 minutes outlining this entire.
Well, you know how it is. When something like this happens, you talk about it, and then later, I forgot to mention this. So we want to make sure we caught as much as we did.
So many things.
So on Wednesday morning, here in the U.S., we left our house to go to the airport.
Yeah. We dropped our kids off, and I had family coming. They were staying with them, and we just up and left, and we went. It's about a 2.5 hour drive to the airport.
Yeah, and the flight wasn't leaving the airport until about 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up leaving quite early. We got breakfast and then headed out. But we were really early.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to kill some time. So we went to one of Mrs. Snow's favorite gigantic stores, IKEA, near the airport, because when you're 40, I guess that's what you do.
If there was a Container Store closer, that would have been like the best.
You go look at furniture that you have to put together. But we did have a good time there.
We did.
What did we get there?
We have been joking, half seriously looking, for a chair for our bedroom, that has no arms, that basically would serve as a nice fuck chair.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we found one.
We found a fuck chair.
And I tell you what, I would have loved to have been the sales associate looking at us from across the way, watching us like discreetly trying it out
Not
in the middle of the show floor.
I'm sitting there in the fuck chair in full blowjob position.
Yeah. And I'm all just about on my knees making sure it's the right height.
Yeah. It was fine.
It's fine.
It was fine. We were just checking to see that it would fit under the table or something.
Yeah, it was fine.
It's completely legitimate.
So I was pretty excited, and we purchased it.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure.
Impulse fuck chair.
Yeah. I was so wet. Just thinking about, here we are about to go on this amazing sex trip, and we're going to come home to a sex chair.
Yeah.
So exciting.
So that was kind of a random side trail to this trip, but that's how it started.
Yeah.
We went and got some lunch and headed for the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And the flight over was About 7.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah, and because it was the way they typically do it is their evening flights that arrive pretty early in the morning in London.
Right.
So they're
Yeah. So
overnight, but
the flight was really good. It went overnight. Tried to get some sleep on the plane. Didn't sleep that great.
not great.
Caught some movies,
Mhm.
but got over there on
Thursday
Thursday
morning.
morning at around 9 a.m.
It was like 9. That sounds about right.
Yeah. And I was so grateful that we did it that way because we were pretty much destroyed when we
Yeah,
landed.
we didn't plan to do really anything on Thursday. Like everything that we were planning on doing really was Friday.
Right.
Like not even Friday morning. It was like Friday afternoon.
Exactly.
So it worked out well.
Yeah.
And so we pretty much crawled into the hotel and just passed out for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And then we woke up and we had dinner. And then we went back to sleep.
I was in this weird place where, like, I think it's just because you get your body out of your circadian rhythm and stuff, and it doesn't know what to do.
No.
I felt like I could have slept for days
Yes.
while we were over there.
Very
But,
much so.
we did have a little fun Thursday night.
We did. It was so funny. So in the room, it was a nice hotel room. They had this blue couch, but it was like one of those couches that only had like one arm on one side.
It was a very sexy couch.
It was a very sexy couch. And there's a word for them. They're like parlor couches or something because it just has the arm is on one side and then there's kind of a back, but the back isn't all the way across. It kind of like curves
tapers
around,
off, yeah.
tapers off. That's the word. And it was blue and it was like kind of a velvet. It was a very sexy couch.
Yeah, so the colors were really great on that. It
It
was a really kind of a
was.
cool emerald color, and the backdrop was kind of cool. The lighting was
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was
cool.
so
And
good.
I'm telling you, the second I saw that couch,
Yeah.
I said to myself, I have to get her naked on that couch.
And you did. And so as we had kind of slept on and off all day, I think we both woke up at like 11 p.m. Like we were awake.
Yeah,
We were like wide awake.
yeah.
And so we decided to have a little naked photo shoot on
Yeah.
the couch.
Some of those photos are going to show up on Twitter. In fact, one already did for
Yeah.
today's episode.
And then we had some pretty amazing, like, we're on vacation sex.
Yeah, good starting off sex. So that night, we just mostly slept, and we slept in,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it was great.
It was wonderful.
Friday,
Mm-hmm.
we hit the ground running.
Yeah.
We'd had a conversation with Mr. N
Yes.
on Thursday about the plans for Friday, and he suggested we go with them on Friday to a proper British farm
Mm-hmm.
because this is hilarious. So they have, as kind of their routine, they go to this farm, and what it is, it truly is a farm,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a restaurant there, and they sell meats and cheeses and other things. And the food is really good, but they go there on Sundays after Vanilla to Vixen with their crew group,
Mm-hmm.
kind of to chat about how the nights went.
Yeah.
But because we were coming, they decided to do it a little bit early, and so we all went on Friday
Right.
together with everyone. And it was hilarious.
Oh my gosh. It was just, there's a part of you that thinks you're walking in to a room with, 7 other people that you've talked to and you kind of know, and you've had some off conversations with them, but you don't know them.
No,
You
not
don't
yet.
know us.
So we
Like
had
we just it's like perfect strangers, but we just sat down and just carried on, and we scared some muggles.
Well, this was funny. So they have a back room. Mr. N has told me a few times. He goes, "I think they know.
I think they know.
I think they know we're swingers." They always put us in the back, and I understand now why. There's kind of a back off the main dining area. There's kind of like this back room, and it has several tables in there. But we were in the far back corner, and this is where, for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
we got to meet Mr. and Ms. Foxy,
Mm-hmm.
Debs,
Mm-hmm.
and Captain Barbarossa.
Yes. Which I don't think we were anticipating meeting the captain,
We didn't know he was there.
but we were glad to meet him, and he was lovely.
Yeah.
And it was just a good It's a good time.
It was amazing because as we met these folks, like you said, it felt just like dropping in with old friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it was loud and it was funny. I could do that lunch every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, telling stories and getting to know everybody and just hearing about the club and the banter and the things that they have going on. That lunch was hilarious. And I can't believe we didn't get thrown out.
Well, like I said, I think they know.
What was funny to me as we're sitting there at lunch, we're talking about all sorts of dirty things. And the like the waitresses and stuff occasionally would come in, for one thing or another. And everybody, the look would sort of go around the table. Knock it off. Knock it off. Knock it off. Knock it off. Muggle alert. Quiet, you. I'm pretty sure.
I know they heard stuff because we weren't paying attention.
What made me laugh about that is like, I feel like that, shut up, went around after they were already standing at the table.
Yeah. Like it was so, yeah.
It was, we were not sly at all.
No. Mm-mm.
But man, were we having a good time.
Yeah. Just laughing and carrying on.
And then you traded
what about me, Mr. Snow?
You got a phone number.
I did.
On your first interaction with anybody.
I did.
In the UK.
Yeah. So after lunch, we went over next door. They have this little shop, which is kind of some fun little things. And we're just kind of walking around and looking at all the tchotchke stuff. And I may or may not, I definitely did. I chit-chatted with the captain. And we flirted a little bit, and I got his number.
Yeah.
And so we WhatsApped quite a bit during my time there.
That started a WhatsApp chat that lasted a few days.
Yes.
You even got a kiss at the end of that.
I did. I got a nice little smooch. And it was funny because, and we discussed this at breakfast the other day, or just it was this morning, about how our dynamic and typically how things are done, kind of how we do it, is you are the one that screens the men. Usually when we're engaging with single men, you're the one who screens them and talks to them. Like, I don't really get involved at all at the beginning.
Yeah, by the time they're to you, they're pretty well polished up.
Right.
You're welcome.
You do such a good job. Good job. Thank you. And so this was kind of the first time that I kind of pursued an individual.
And that was hot. That was really hot.
I remember we're kind of chit-chatting and, I got his digits and, he gave me a nice little smooch. And I remember Mr. Snow looking at me and goes, "Did he kiss you?" And I was like, "Yeah." I got a smooch. Lovely gentleman, though. Wonderful guy. It was so much fun at lunch. Just, good guy.
Well, and we learned some stuff from him. Some things that we're going to expand on ourselves. He runs a social in his area.
Yeah, I don't know where.
For any of our U.S. listeners who aren't familiar, really a social is just kind of a get-together. It's just getting a group of people together to hang out. There's not a play anticipation.
No.
It's not in a place where it's in a restaurant or a bar. It's not in a place where you could play. But I don't exactly know how often they get together, but
I thought it was a weekly thing or every other week or something.
Something like that. But they've been going now for 3 or 4 months, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I paid close attention to because that's something I'd like to do in our area.
Mm-hmm.
We had a social meetup one time, and it went really well. We had people come out. We used the hot date function on SLS.
Yeah.
And got a group of people together, some of whom we had not met.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually, we'll get more into this at another time. But for those of us, and us included in this, who don't have ready and frequent access to clubs, I think this is a really promising way to meet people in a way that is fun,
there's
community-based,
no pressure,
and not a gigantic waste of time.
Yeah.
So I was very anxious to kind of hear how that goes for them, but it sounds to me like they're having a great time with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of fun to hear about. And then as we left lunch, we wandered over and pondered some of a couple of artist shops that were next door,
Hmm.
and just walked around and talked with everybody.
Yeah.
And then we parted ways
Yes.
and headed back for the hotel.
Right, because we had a birthday dinner to get ready for
We did. It was time to get ready for Saturday night's activities.
Friday nights.
Or Friday night's activities, yeah. So we went back to the hotel.
Right, and we had probably about an hour. Well, probably like 2 hours.
Yeah, give or take.
Right, and I think I kind of not jokingly, but said, "Oh, we should grab a drink." So when we got back to the hotel, we decided to have a drink with Mr. and Miss Foxy.
Yeah, and that was a great conversation.
It was a great conversation, and we talked a lot about just a lot of things. And I think what was just amazing about the whole conversation, as I reflect back, there are just I cannot stress this enough. One of the most amazing things about sitting down with them was the incredible openness,
Yeah.
and honesty,
Yeah.
and just vulnerability.
Yeah. This is a very experienced couple
Yes.
in the lifestyle.
And they were sharing their experience, and I guess they are kind of evolving even after all these years and all the things that they've done. They're changing things up a little bit, and they're trying new things, and them just being as open and honest and vulnerable and sharing how they feel about things and how they've maybe struggled or they're still trying to figure out what works. And it was just such an amazingly authentic conversation.
It was. I mean, what to give a little more context to this, they were explaining to us that they were changing their play dynamic a little bit.
They decided to change things up. Yeah.
Right. So they had been a couple who for a long time had played with women,
Mm-hmm.
and had also played with some couples, but in a very together environment.
Mm-hmm.
And they were beginning to explore individual play and some even overnight play. And what I really appreciated about this conversation was that they were very open, and particularly the gentleman was very open about how he was having a hard time with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think unexpectedly so. In fact, I asked him if he was surprised and how he felt. And he looked at me with big eyes and said, yes.
And I think what's amazing, and I think it just kind of reinforces a lot of the things that we talk about every time we have a show. This is an experienced couple. They've clearly been involved with the lifestyle for a good number of years, and they've kind of done a lot of things and had a lot of experiences. And the fact that they are kind of starting over.
Yeah.
And I think, I just think just like with anything in life, when you do something for an extended period of time, you get complacent or you get just comfortable and you don't think about how important it is, or I don't want to say how important it is, but like the need to communicate may not be as high because you've just done it so many times.
Right.
But now they're changing things up, right? They're changing.
Well, they are. And
the fact that they kind of have to go back to that very root of communication and being able to have those conversations about, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I like this.
Right.
When you've done something for so long, you don't think about that.
Right. And in particular, his, and I get this because I have similar thoughts. His challenge with their shift in dynamic is, where do the lines between sex and intimacy begin to blur?
Right.
And when you're having sex and you're swapping in a club or you're playing, that is just sex. That's all that is in that time. But they were beginning to branch into longer duration play, which is sort of like where, for example, all the four of them went to a hotel and split into two pairs with their respective husband and wife and spent the night.
Mm-hmm.
And they were apart for that entire time. And I think they found that very exciting. And I think at the same time, there was some There's a little bit of vulnerability in that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the idea of me having sex with somebody else is hot and all the things, right? But the idea of me spending the night with another person,
Right.
that is much more intimate.
It is.
And there's much more of that connection.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself, I don't think is a bad thing, but I think it really has the potential to really kind of mind fuck.
Well, and to be honest, the mind fucking in a way is why we're doing it. Because we like the stretch.
We do like being a little uncomfortable.
We like the stretch, but
I do like the stretch.
But it's hard to sometimes grapple with understanding. Okay, I'm uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I uncomfortable? What is it about this that I'm uncomfortable with?
Right.
And grappling that with yourself. And what I was grateful to them in that conversation about was, as experienced as they are.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing this a long time. This is a relatively new dynamic for them. And I was really appreciative of their being open and honest with, even though we're not newbies, even though we're not, beginners at this, we still have these moments where we stop and go, ooh, I don't know.
Right.
And that was a real, I felt like I could have continued that conversation with them for hours.
Mm-hmm.
But I really appreciated that chat with them. But it was time at that point to jump up.
I know. I was like, we were just in the midst of this conversation and I kept looking at the clock. I was like, we have to go.
We have to go.
Mr. and Mrs. N are going to be here to pick us up to go to dinner. Or like, we have to go.
Right. So we had to go. So we ran upstairs and we got ready and everything for Friday night.
Right.
And the plan for that night had been to go to dinner at a pub.
Right.
And then go up to a club in a town called Nottingham.
Right.
To go to Purple Mamba.
Right. And we talked about this with the ends in our last podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the original plan.
Right.
But if you didn't hear the previous podcast, we went to the pub.
Right.
And it was a fantastic pub. It was a really cool pub.
Yeah.
And in addition to our little gang here, we had Mr. and Mrs. N, the Foxies, Debs, and Tig and Jay.
Yeah.
And we all sat down at this pub and we started to get some drinks and talk. And then I think we all discovered they don't serve food on Friday nights. And Mr. N, gosh, he was mortified. So funny. He was mortified funny. And he was so funny. He just kept saying, who reserves a table for 10 and doesn't mention, oh, by the way, we don't serve food?
Oh, gosh, so funny.
But we did spend some time there and had a couple drinks there. But then we were off next door. Debs sorted this one out.
Well, Debs is that person.
Debs is the boss.
She is.
So the Indian restaurant next door accommodated our group for dinner.
They did.
Now, Indian, before going to a swingers club, is a highly questionable choice. In this case,
yes, it is.
It was right next door, and so it worked.
Well, right, and I think it kind of had a domino effect, right? I mean, I think we were planning on doing dinner from like 6 to 8. Or you know what I mean, like 6:30 to 8:30.
It was originally 6 to 8:30.
Yeah, and so that would have given us plenty of time to get up to the other club, and all the things.
Yeah.
But I think because of the shift in plans, it just took a lot longer, and we didn't get out of dinner until well after 10.
Yeah, right around 10. And so
yeah,
as we were kind of coming apart and coming out of the restaurant,
mm-hmm.
The question was raised. To go up to Purple Mamba would have been about an hour. And the thought was, if we get there at 11, which we could still do, you're only going to be there for just a short while before we really get kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
And alternatively, we could have been at Libs in about 10 minutes.
Right.
And so the choice was made, as much as we hated not seeing Purple Mamba, and I really was looking forward to going to that club.
Yeah.
We were off to Libs. And I think Mrs. Snow got a little lady boner about the fact that it was Hot Wife Night
It was.
at Libs.
Yeah, it was. I will say also, looking back on it, it was really a good, it was really an amazing thing to go to Libs both nights because we really got to see just a very different vibe and a very different experience.
We did. So the way Libs works is they have parties mostly on, I think it's Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the parties that they have there at Libs are hosted parties. What that means within the swinger club there is that there is an official host. For example, Saturday night was Vanilla to Vixen, and it's hosted by Mr. and Mrs. N. And consequently, that means it's also promoted by Mr. and Mrs. N.
Sure.
And the hosts manage the guest list. So if, for example, if we had been hosting a party, which obviously we wouldn't, but if we were hosting a party, everyone would contact us to get on the guest list. We would do the verifications and the screening and so on and so forth. And then on the night of the party, the hosts and the host's crew are there to meet people and greet people as they're coming in the door,
Give
tours, all that
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is because the host and the crew and so forth, even though it's the same club, has a huge impact on the dynamic and the vibe within the club.
Well,
on
right,
that
because they're
night.
managing those people, but they're also one thing I would say about the ends, which were amazing in comparison. The ends are very involved.
Yes.
I think every
Very
host is very
hands-on.
different and kind of how they do it for whatever reason. I'm not, not wrong or right, but the ends are very involved and very invested. And they always like to check in with pretty much everybody. Hey, are you having a good time? I mean, because they really want to promote, like, obviously their show, but I think it's more than that. I think it's they care. They really are invested in this community. They really are invested
Very much
in
so.
people having a good time and having a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This night, Hot Wives Night, was hosted by someone else. I'm not sure who's the host for that night. But the vibe in the club was interesting. It was a lot of, for one thing, it was a younger crowd.
Yes.
Compared between the two nights, it was a younger crowd. And by younger, I mean 20s to 30s.
Well, they have an
probably.
age limit at Libs. It's 24 and up.
Yeah, 24 and up. But I felt like the crowd seemed younger than us.
Yeah.
And, we're right there at about 40.
You were 40 that night.
Yeah.
And he wore his little "It's my birthday" pin.
I did. I wore my birthday pin. So we went in, and for whatever reason, we had a hard time kind of mingling with that crowd.
It was a good thing that the ends were there.
It was.
Yeah.
It was nice to talk to them. We did talk, I think, to a few people, but you had a couple drinks bought for you.
I did. Well, I mean, it's Hot Wife Night, and I was standing at the bar, and some very nice single gentleman asked me what I was drinking, and I told him, and he bought me a drink.
Yeah. So not a total loss, but
not a total loss. We did meet an interesting lady that we talked about on the podcast with the ends.
Yeah, but that was later in the night. So
oh my gosh.
For anyone who might not be familiar with Libs,
yeah,
we should describe the club.
Sure.
So when you come in the front door at Libs, you're greeted by the host of the party, and you walk into the bar area.
Well, you have to get signed in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's you don't walk into like the club. Like there's kind of
once
an
you get past
entryway.
the admin part.
Yeah, then you kind of sign in and pay your locker fee, and all that stuff. So when you walk in, it's not just a bunch of dicks.
Well, right, and we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. But so that you've got the bar and the sitting area,
right?
And that's kind of the first thing you walk into.
Right when you walk in, sure.
Yeah. To your left, the club kind of splits off in two different directions.
It's like a U shape almost.
A little bit, yeah. To your left, it goes into kind of a big sitting area with a fireplace. And then a little bit beyond that is another sitting area. And beyond...
bunch of couches and
tables.
tables.
A bunch of overstuffed couches and tables and things.
Yeah.
And beyond that is the hallway that has the locker rooms and the restrooms in it.
Right.
And one thing I'll tell you is that this place, and you can always tell almost any place by the bathrooms, but
Yeah.
they are very, very, very clean.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's
Oh,
as clean
yeah.
as anyone's home.
Absolutely.
That place is spotless.
Yeah.
They take tremendous care of it.
They do. They do a wonderful job.
To the right are the lockers. There's kind of a little locker room. Sometimes it's a major traffic jam,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's pretty okay.
Well, there's a lot of nudity, right? Because
There's a
everyone's
lot
in the
of
locker
nudity.
room at various points through the night, getting changed, putting on their lingerie, getting in their towels,
Yes.
being butt-ass naked.
Butt-ass naked. In each locker, there are 2 towels, which is really, really nice.
Yes.
So Libs provides a towel
Right.
for you to wear. And once
And as a chubby girl, I appreciated the fact that the towels were very oversized.
they fit you perfectly.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Because you go into a hotel
Yeah, I
and
know.
you put in a towel and it like barely covers your tits and it's like wide open.
Teeny tiny towel.
Yeah, no.
Although honestly, a teeny tiny towel for you would not have been so bad.
Yeah, but I don't want to walk around. That's not a towel to
Okay.
walk around in.
So you walk past the locker rooms and the bathroom, and you enter the playroom.
This very big room with, let me see, I got to count. Like there's probably 1, 2, 3, I don't know, like 5 beds kind of around. And then there's like a huge big
And then
bed
there's
in
the
the
big
middle.
bed.
The
Yeah.
big bed.
So I think it is 1, 2, 3, I think it is 5 beds that are kind of scattered around the perimeter. I think you're right. And I'm pretty sure they're like king size bed size
Yeah.
or queens maybe. And then the big bed is several beds kind of
Put together.
arranged together
Yes.
in one big bed.
Yeah.
In the middle. And to the right of all of this
Yeah.
is the jacuzzi.
Oh, there's like steps up and it goes into this
it's several steps
huge
up.
jacuzzi, which I fucking loved.
I got to tell you. So I heard there was a jacuzzi there.
I thought your first thought is like, ugh.
I don't know about that. So I thought, golly, I mean, you've got a hot tub in a swingers club. That could be gross. And I really, honestly, I really half expected it to be very gross. I did not think I'd be getting in the jacuzzi.
Yeah, that's pretty much where you spent all of Saturday night.
all of Saturday night and a lot of Friday night. It was gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
super clean.
Yes.
It's roomy.
It's very big.
It's
Yeah.
very comfortable.
Yeah.
And it was I think they told us at one time they had 25 people in there,
Which is insane.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
We were in there. The most we had in there probably was 15-ish.
Oh, I think we had closer to 17 or 18. Yeah.
maybe. But we went, so that's where the jacuzzi is. It's fantastic. So that's kind of the end of that side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you come all the way back to the beginning, you come all the way back to the bar and the sitting area.
Right. And you go around the backside.
Yeah.
of the
Instead
bar.
of going left, you go right.
Yeah.
You go a little past the bar. That opens up into a big dance floor area,
Mm-hmm.
which is really nice. There's like a stage there with the DJ and lights, and there's just like some stripper poles and stuff like that.
And there are a couple sitting areas.
couple small sitting areas around the dance floor.
Right.
And then adjacent to that, just to the right of the dance floor, there are 2 rooms.
Yes.
One of them is kind of a chill out room. There's kind of a big couch there, like an ottoman, and you can go in there and hang out. You can play. And there's a door that you can leave open or closed. Next to that room is a sex swing room.
It is. It is a sex swing room. Yes.
We initially encountered a sex swing at our very first club
Yeah.
that we went down to.
Which we didn't even, I don't think.
I'm pretty sure we didn't even try it.
Oh, we didn't even really
at
look
the
at
time,
it. Yeah.
but we
it
were
wasn't-
always kind of intrigued by it.
Oh,
We
sure.
were always kind of interested in the sex swing. So
Mhm.
we were pretty sure we were going to come back and try this sex swing out.
Yeah.
But outside of there, back across the dance floor, on the other side of the dance floor, was a sort of an alcove that had a St. Andrew's cross and
Yeah.
a spanking bench.
Yeah.
And then,
There weren't a lot of people on that.
no, that didn't get a lot of action. A little bit, but not
Yeah.
a lot. And then from there, going a little bit further past the dance floor, it went outside
Mm-hmm.
and it was really cool that you could go outside.
Yeah.
Mostly kind of for smoking and stuff like that, but it was a great way to cool off because it does get warm in there.
Yeah, so they had some tables and chairs, and there was like a little hut that I think most people there were some people smoking in it, but yeah.
Yeah, so you could kind of go out there and catch your breath. And then we didn't explore these, but a little beyond all that area, there's a row of, I mean, it's kind of like one long row, but it's several apartment or like hotel rooms.
Oh,
in
yeah.
that.
Because I guess you could stay at Libs.
You can. And I didn't go in one of the hotel rooms, but I was told by a number of people that they were very nice.
Yeah.
And that would be kind of handy,
Yes.
having your room right there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of note to self for next time. Maybe we'll try that.
Self.
But anyway, so that's the layout of the club. And on Friday night, we hung out pretty tightly with Mr. and Mrs. N.
Yeah.
Kind of wandered around, chatted with some people, met a few people.
Well, so after we got there and we had a couple drinks, we were kind of doing our thing. I remember saying to Mrs. N, we're going to go explore.
Yes.
And she said, go, she's like, go have fun. And so obviously they knew a couple people there that night. And so we went off and we explored. And we went over to, the room with the swing.
Yes.
And so it was a nice swing. I mean, it was very sturdy.
Yeah. It was like a gigantic frame.
Yes.
With 4 chains that hung down.
I think there were 6 chains.
I think you're right. I think it was 6. And a carabiner on each one so you could adjust the
height. Yeah.
And then it was basically just like a leather sling.
Yeah.
That a person could lay in. And we tried the swing. So the first time we tried it, this
is one of those like, well, I will say during our tour, Mrs. N gave us a little tip for the swing. There was like one of those square ottomans in the room.
Yeah.
She's like, push that over and have that help you get in and out.
Yeah, and that was good advice. That was good advice because the funny thing about the swing is that it's kind of a contraption.
It is. And I am convinced there is a hidden camera in that room, not for watching people have sex purposes, but basically for watching people get in and out of that swing. Because it is not sexy.
I think you could sell that on like YouTube like crazy.
Like sex swing fails.
Yeah, and it's nothing to do with the actual sex part. It's
not
literally
at all.
It's just people fucking up on sex swings.
People falling out, and it's just, I mean, here we are trying to be hot and sexy, and we are just laughing our asses off.
Oh, laughing and sweating and shaking.
And just be like, God damn it!
Move it over here. Move it over there. Oh my gosh, it was awful. And I mean, I think at one point we did kind of get going, but the thing about a sex swing that I never thought about is the pussy moves.
The pussy moves. So yeah, the target, it's a moving target.
Right. So you get her right where you want her to be. And then like you kind of go and you start to push in and everything. And she's pushing away from you because she's on this damn swing.
And I can't really stop it, right?
But the key is, in talking with everybody after the fact, the key was that you had to be right up on the edge. Like you had to have your booty a little beyond the edge of the front.
Like ladies, picture you going to the gynecologist, and you know how the gynecologist always says to you, can you scoot your butt down a little bit more? All the ladies are nodding their head right now because they're like, yep, totally no. You got to scoot your butt all the way down to the edge.
All the way, and a little past the edge.
A little past the edge. Yeah.
So that was one of the things because I was having a hard time like getting you in a right position. Mm-hmm. And then we lowered it a couple of links or whatever.
Yeah, which helped.
That made it a little easier. So now I wasn't on my tiptoes the whole time. But still couldn't get the geometry quite right. I think if we had really taken the time. See, and here's my tip for anybody who goes to try this, and I think I would do it again too. Before you try to fuck in it.
Yeah.
Lay down in it. And just men stand there with your girl and just check it all out.
Well, get the logistics right.
Get the logistics right. Don't just try to jump in it and fuck.
Which is 100% what we did.
Which is 100% what we did.
Which, to be fair, when you're like horny and excited, you're like, it's a sex swing. You know,
it sounded like a
it's-
good idea at the time.
It's like a kid in a candy store.
But
you know?
yeah, so that's the tip on the sex swing. Get it all adjusted right.
Mhm.
Because I'm here to tell you, trying to fuck in a maladjusted sex swing is not a hot thing.
I'm telling you, there's footage. There has to be footage. It's somewhere out there.
So that was sort of,
man, newbies take on sex swing.
oh my gosh, that sort of got all fucked up.
So we did it. So I think the fun part about all of that is I feel like we kind of played a little bit, but obviously there was but I think you got built up quite a bit through the experiences that we had throughout the evening.
Oh yeah.
Just worked up.
Well, and that's something that for me, I'm noticing that I have to be a little bit mindful of in clubs
Mm-hmm.
is that build up, it can be really good. You know, that partial play here and there
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, teasing and throughout the night and so forth. It can lead to a really explosive finish, but you can also burn your candle out early.
Yeah, because we also went over and played a little bit on the spanking bench.
We did. We went over there and played a little bit on the spanking bench.
Yeah.
But you know, the truth is that I think those in that particular layout, it was kind of hard to get into it
Mm-hmm.
in those two because it's all right next to the dance floor,
Right.
which is kind of like a totally different vibe
Mm-hmm.
than those toys. So it was kind of hard to get really in the groove
Yeah.
with those toys and, you know, the dance floor going right next to it.
Right.
So we played a little bit with that, but from there we went on to the jacuzzi,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Mr. and Mrs. N were already there.
They
I think they were
hanging out on one of the beds.
I think so.
And we came in and we were in our towels and they were in theirs and they were like, well, hello, how did
Yeah.
exploring go? And we told them about the swing and they just laughed and they said, yep, been there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They gave us the smile that said, yeah, we did the same thing. And so off we went into the jacuzzi for our
Mhm.
first trip in,
Yes.
and it is amazing.
Well, I think one of the amazing things is everybody's naked.
Yeah.
Like, why would they not be, right? But like, everybody is just naked
Yes.
and titties are, it's like tit soup.
Tit soup. They're everywhere.
Amazing.
It's fantastic. But we're all in the hot tub, and the way this hot tub is laid out, it's a rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a seat built into the hot tub. It's not like one of the big plastic ones. It's more
It's like a big concrete one.
yeah, like a concrete or tile
Yeah.
one. And so there's like one big bench seat that goes all the way around in a rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're in there and they're in there. We're just talking and hanging out. And if you listen to the last week's episode, you already know that we were issued a challenge to see whose titties were bigger between Mrs. N's and Mrs. Snow's.
Yeah, and Mr. Snow and Mr. N so graciously offered to, for the sake of science and research,
For science.
100%, to do a blind, quote unquote,
I did mine blind.
a blind feeling test.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mrs. Snow and Mrs. N are sitting there in the hot tub, and both of them look spectacular. And so I got up, closed my eyes, you know, for science. And I said
Jesus.
out loud, could be anybody.
Could be anybody,
Could
even
be
though we
anybody.
hadn't moved anywhere.
And felt both ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mr. N did the same thing, although
Right.
I think he messed up the science part. He kept his
He
eyes
cheated.
open.
He said, I forgot to close my eyes.
I think so. And at one point, I even had like one of both. And I think Mr. N and I ultimately decided it was a tie.
Smart men.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it was genuinely a tie. I mean, truly, I think they're really about the same. So we learned that on hot tub night. After a while, and the hot tub is great because people just go in there and they talk and they laugh
Right.
and hang out. Of course, everybody's naked.
Well, and I think that's the thing, I think, we talk about the club environment and how everyone's there for the same reason, right? But it's just such a, I don't know how to word this, like a genuine, no bullshit environment.
Yeah.
You know, like you're sitting in a hot tub naked.
Right.
There's no reason why you can't be authentically yourself because you're literally vulnerable as hell, right?
Yeah, the
Because you're
shields are
naked, right?
down.
There's
I mean,
nothing there, right?
Right.
And so I think it's funny how like the symbolism of like being naked,
Yeah.
like really just allows people to be 100% themselves.
Yeah. Just real.
Just 100% real.
And one nice thing about this is even though there's kind of like a block wall, you can still see a little bit and still hear
Oh, you can still hear everything.
the
yeah.
action that's going on just
the
on the
other
other side in the playroom.
Yeah.
So as you're having these conversations, you hear the occasional moan,
Oh yeah.
the occasional pussy slapping.
hmm
That's really nice.
It's fun. It's just a fun environment to be in.
And there's one bed down on the far end of the room that you can sit there and just kind of see from the jacuzzi the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But so we spent quite a while in the jacuzzi just hanging out.
Yeah.
And then we got all dried off. And
we wanted to go play.
Yeah, we wanted to go play.
But all the rooms were taken.
They were.
Because we didn't mention in our little tour that there is an upstairs part that has 3 bedrooms.
Or 4.
I don't remember.
Something like that.
Yeah.
One of those bedrooms up there is it's actually, is it 2 beds or is it 4?
It's 2.
It's 2 put together.
2 big double beds put together.
2 beds all stuck together though.
Yeah.
So you could put a bunch of people in there.
Right.
And we were kind of wanting to play, and Mr. N, he kind of goes away for a little while and then he comes back and he is so excited.
He's like giddy.
He is giddy. And he says, come on, come on, come on, come on. And so, we kind of follow him and he's so excited. We go running upstairs, the 3 of us, and we go in there and the room is open. And he says, this is really a treat. You can never get this room. This room
the big double bedroom.
Yeah, the big double bedroom is never open like this. So we go in there and he says, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. So we go in the big double bedroom. We close the door. And then you and I went over to the far side and we just started playing together.
We did.
And that was
it was
so
your
nice.
birthday.
That was so nice.
So I got to play with you a little.
So at that point, we were just laid back on the bed, or I was laid back on the bed, and you were on your hands and knees sucking me. And occasionally, Mr. N would pop in and say, "Oh, she's not here yet," and then he would disappear.
Trying to find Mrs. N.
He was trying to find Mrs. N. Eventually, Mr. and Mrs. N made their way up to the room.
Yes.
And they walked in, and they went around to the other side of the bed, and we were still doing our thing. And then they started playing together. And it was actually our first same room experience.
It was.
We've
because
never
there was
had that before.
Yeah, there was no swapping. There was no anything like that. It was very independent, but it was together.
Yeah.
But it was just such an amazing experience. Well, one, I think there was obviously that sexual buildup on your end, and I think the sexual buildup of being at Libs, and like all of those pieces for you and I. But it was also just so much. It's such a weird thing to say, but it was just very sweet and intimate.
It was. We both said that afterwards.
Like the 4 of us.
So the way that it went, Mrs. Snow and I played, and Mr. and Mrs. N played, and we were just on 2 beds next to each other.
Right.
And we both had, it looked like pretty great sex.
Yeah.
And we both finished.
Yes. And
then my favorite part, actually, is when we were both done, the 4 of us were all just laying there together, and both Mr. N and I were just kind of touching and stroking our ladies. And we're just laying there having a conversation.
We're talking and laughing, and It was just so sweet.
It was. It was. And the next day, we hadn't really talked about it a whole lot. And then the next day, you said to me, you're like, wasn't that nice?
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, it was weirdly like sweet.
Mhm.
It was hot, but it was really more just really nice.
Well, you made the joke that it consummated our relationship.
It did.
Our friendship.
We consummated the friendship.
We did.
So that was an amazing experience.
It really was. It was just so, I think, we have spent so much time talking to them.
Yeah.
And getting to know them.
Yep.
Not just like related to podcast and lifestyle stuff, but just getting to know them as people.
Right.
And they, God love them. They just put so much of their time and energy into hosting us. And they said to us, I couldn't tell you how many times, we want you to have the best time.
Yeah.
We want you to have the most amazing time when you come over here.
Yeah.
And it's like they made that their mission.
They were committed to that.
They really were. And so to just kind of be able to spend that level of intimate time with them was just really special. It was really wonderful.
It was. Especially with all the months and leading up to it.
Yeah.
It really was amazing.
But it just it really reinforced, because there was no crossplay at all.
No.
It just kind of,
and it never really came up.
No.
I don't think either of us, that just wasn't the vibe
that
in the
wasn't
moment.
the vibe in the moment.
I didn't feel in any way disappointed about that.
Not at all.
This is just how it went.
But it just, I think it really, again, I feel like this is just such a weird thing to say, but it just kind of reaffirmed and reconfirmed our closeness.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just really kind of connected us in such a different way.
Yeah, I think so too.
And on a much more intimate level.
And there again, I think one of the things about this trip that stands out for me, the same thing that we had with that conversation earlier with that couple in the bar,
mm-hmm.
are the unexpected moments.
Yeah.
And that's true of every trip.
Yeah.
Every trip you ever go on, lifestyle, vanilla, it doesn't matter. It's always the unexpected things
mm-hmm.
that really stick with you. And that make the most lasting impression. And this was one of those things.
Right. And I think it also just reaffirms that we are in this lifestyle. We do this for the connections.
Right. Right.
Like that was,
it took us a while to learn that.
It did. That whole experience was not about sex.
Not really.
It was intimate, like sex with you and I, and I'm sure between the two of them, but the overall experience,
it was sort of about togetherness.
It was just about being that connected relationship in that space. It was just, yeah.
Right.
So it really was very special.
That was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never would have thought, you go way back to the beginning and how we approached lifestyle and swinging and so on. I mean, I'm honestly ashamed to say it now
mm-hmm.
because I've learned so much since then. But in the very, 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 very beginning of this, I was sort of along the lines of like, well, hey, we'll try this and we don't want to get to know anybody.
Right.
We don't want to make friends with people.
Right.
They're almost like human sex toys.
Right. This is just 100% physical.
Right. It's just about getting off and getting gone.
Yeah.
And you fast forward to that moment.
Yeah.
And that was like, we practically made love to those people.
I know.
This orgasm is a tribute to you.
Yeah. I'm not saying it wasn't hot, right? But that was not the forefront. Yeah, that was not the first thought. So
but
it
was really cool.
It was really nice.
But one of the, we'll get to this for Saturday. So that was Friday night. That was basically right about the time they were closing.
Mm-hmm.
So shortly after that, we all dressed up and headed back to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And we got back to the hotel at 2:30.
Yeah, it was late.
3 a.m, something like that.
Yeah.
Went to sleep. Woke up. We were supposed to meet everybody downstairs.
We had kind of said, well, maybe for breakfast. Yeah, we didn't make it for breakfast because
No, breakfast did not happen. We told everybody we would meet them in the lobby at noon
Mm-hmm.
to figure out lunch. We didn't wake up until 11.
Yeah.
And we didn't really get out of bed until like 11:30.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason we didn't
I
get out of
forgot.
bed.
We had sex again that morning.
Oh yeah, we had sex again. I
forgot.
feel like that's we had sex again.
I forgot about that. That is true, honestly.
Well, and I think the part about it was not only like whatever, that's fine. Then you decided to post it on the Discord. Like it wasn't like just a group chat of the people that we were meeting. You posted it in the general, "Oh, sorry, we're running late. Morning sex."
Well, I just wanted to keep everyone informed.
Yeah, okay. Oh, given that this trip was such a whirlwind and we had such an amazing time, and it's turning out to be quite the long podcast, we've decided to take a break here. And so join us for part 2, where we talk more about Saturday and our Vanilla to Vixen party with the ends. So come back and listen to the rest. We want to hear from you. Email us at snowmilf@yahoo.com. That's SNOMILF@yahoo.com. You can also join us on our Discord and have some fun interactive conversations with us. The link is in the show notes. Talk to you soon. Yes, penis. Penis, penis. Penis, penis, penis. Penis, 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 penis. Penis.
Talk to me in a steady, like how you're going to talk. Like, give me a sentence. Because that volume was like all over the fucking place.
Mrs. Snow is going to fuck the shit out of Captain Barbarossa. I want to feel his body on top of me, shoving his dick inside of me.
That's going to be a fun voice memo for later. Okay.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Of course it is. God damn it.
Of course it is. Damn it.